All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. I'm your host, as always, Mike. And today, for episode 48, we're going to be breaking down UFC Vegas 70. And I'm joined by one of my favorite people in the space, the stats god, Uncle Wheezy. What's up, brother? Thanks for coming on. What are you thinking for this card? You like it?
I do. I like this card quite a bit. I had to look into a bunch of new fighters, and that's always, time consuming. But I think there's some really interesting stylistic matchups on this card. And as I dig in further and further, I'm finding more and more bettable spots. So I'm anxious to break it down with you in the chat and see if we can agree on anything here.
Hell yeah. I've already got a bunch of money lines, and I have one total I actually want to ask you about somewhere in my notes, and we'll get there, but I'm excited. So real quick, before I start the show, I'll say what up to the chat, and then I owe two Shoeys. I owe one to Wiz for, I bet, Melsik Bagdasaryan against Kulabau. For a second there, I thought I finally got this guy, and now I'm 0-3 or 0-4 in Shoey bets to Wiz. And then prop, I bet him, he took what's his name? Nazim. I took Evan Elder. I felt amazing. And then it was all over, and I was like, that sucks. Like, now I got to drink a Shoey bet too. Brutal.
Dude, Mike, I had Elder too, dude. I was sick to my stomach. And then the third leg of my greasy four-legger was actually the William Knight money line. And after that fight, I briefly considered just quitting content creation. That, losing the Elder bet, having Lena Landsberg when I had an over 2.5 voluntarily go into Mayra Bueno Silva's guard with 20 seconds left in the round, and then watching William Knight performance, which was the worst I've ever seen in my life.
It was so brutal.
Rough week, dude. Rough week.
Like, Knight did less than Rose and Carla Esparza did in their fight. Like, yeah. It was unbelievable. And he said in his interview that he froze up and stuff, but like, man, I don't know if there's any coming back from that.
No, there isn't. I mean, he can go fight on the regional scene, but like he's gonna need to look like, Cain Velasquez to get invited back after that performance, because people will be throwing beers on him the next time he comes out to fight.
I wrote like a post. I was like Bellator or PFL, and someone was like BKFC.
Yeah, I think BKFC maybe, because this guy doesn't even want to wrestle. Dude, he didn't even try to take down Pracknell. What the fuck was wrong with this guy, man? What was he doing?
You'd think he was injured, but he didn't say a single thing about an injury.
Nope, he did not. And he made weight.
He did, and he looked great. He looked ripped.
It changed. I actually had picked Pracknell by decision on just the tip, and then I saw William Knight on the scales. I'm like, oh, maybe he gives a shit again. And I'm like, he's got more ways to win this fight, So I'm betting him. I didn't straight bet him and track it, but it was, it ruined my greasy four-legger, which I got the other three legs cashed. I'm heartbroken. I'm crestfallen. But I'll let you get to these Shoeys, brother. My bad.
You got it. Luckily, I took Knight decision, no action, so that wasn't that bad. But my under crashed and burned like everybody else, which sucked. But let's do it. I got to do 2 in a row of these. I think I'll be all right. This one is for Wiz, because I'm more mad about the prop one. He doesn't deserve this, but I'll do it because I'm a man of my word. That's one. And if anyone's new to my channel, I cannot drink beer because gluten-free and whatnot. So I'm doing these with White Claws. Whether it's worse or better, I'm not sure. But here's the second one. This one is to prop. Prop, I hate you. But great job last week. Dude killed it. Absolutely.
Yeah, he did, man. He swept the card, man. He hit every leg. Unbelievable.
So props to him. Oh, I'm so mad at that. Got a feel for Evan Elder the most. That must have sucked.
That one really
especially after he saw the scorecards.
Yeah, I know, man. And I mean, like that stoppage.
But all right, number 2. Here's to prop. All right.
Nice work, dude. Nice work.
A bit more spillage that second time, but we're all right.
Yeah, they don't give you points for form in this game, my man.
I only learned last week that you're supposed to spit in there too. I didn't even realize that. And I think I actually forgot to do it this time.
I don't think you're supposed to, man. I know that Boston Nick does that whenever he does a shoey, and I just, I don't do shoeys, man. I just don't. I'm too old for that at this point, man. I partied too much in college.
Hey, man, I'm not a huge drinker anymore, but when it comes to MMA, I'm always drinking.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you.
But all right, guys, let's get into this. I'm inevitably going to have to take a bathroom break after that one. And I have been sipping a little bit before, but let's hop into the card. I've got a bunch of money lines. Wheezy already, I'm sure, has some bets too and some stuff to talk about. So let's hop right in. For the first fight, we've got Jose Johnson versus Garrett Armfield. Johnson is 15-7-0. He's 27 years old, 6 feet tall, with the 74-inch reach. And in terms of a camp, I do not have anything, so I'm going with STR Kings, I guess.
That's what I got.
Yep. And then Armfield, I try to check their Instagrams, but sometimes there's nothing. I don't even think I could find Jose's Instagram. But Garrett Armfield.
There's probably a million Jose Johnsons, so
I always try typing in their name and then MMA, if they have a very common name, but didn't work here.
Yeah. Okay.
Prop, I think you missed my shoey for you, brother. But Garrett Armfield, 8-3-0. He's 1 year younger. He's going to be, 6 inches shorter, 4-inch reach disadvantage, training out of my favorite camp, Sanford MMA. And Wheezy, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, I'm having a really hard time getting a read on this fight. I mean, this guy, Jose Johnson, dude, he's got crazy KO power for somebody that's built the way that he is, but he's a 6-foot bantamweight. He's got 22 professional fights, and this guy had something like 35 amateur fights prior to being a professional. So he's very experienced, and he's fought a very good level of competition, better than Garrett Armfield. Johnson's got crazy knockout power, man. He's hurting people, and they're screaming in pain or looking like they got electrocuted face down on the floor. He's got really good power. Now you can take this guy down, you can wear him out with wrestling, and you can do it over and over and over again. But the problem is that Jose's 6 feet tall, so when you take him down, he's looking for chokes and triangles and getting them in ways that most bantamweights wouldn't be able to get them. And on the other side, you got Armfield, and he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist. He's got good conditioning. He's got good boxing. When he's on the feet, he really likes to pressure, and that can break dudes. He can mix in wrestling and win minutes on the ground as well. So I see Armfield kind of being the more complete mixed martial artist, but I also see a guy in Johnson that can lose fights right up until he wins it. And sometimes it only takes 1 second or one shot. So, and I've seen him do it in so many different ways. An elbow in the clinch, a Travis Brown elbow when he's getting taken down, just flat out landing a good straight shot at distance, head kicks. The guy's got an arsenal of strikes that are meant to really hurt you. So very interesting fight here. I'm picking Jose Johnson, but I'm not betting a money line side here. And I think that these violence bets are a little bit overpriced. So this might just be a stay away for me.
Yeah, so I hopped in on Johnson relatively early. I got him at plus 140. I thought there was some value there. I've been going back and forth, honestly, reconsidering it, thinking about maybe hedging out, just because I'm looking at it, right? And Jose Johnson, he's getting subs, right? And he's very active off his back, but he is getting taken down. Every single fight, constantly just getting taken down. You have to give him credit. Very good scrambling. But if he gets stuck, that's where I'm going to have some concerns in this fight. And also, he's good at range, but I'm concerned about the pocket exchanges because you look at the Martinez knockout, right? It was just right in the pocket, quick. It was 30 seconds. And I was I didn't remember it very well for the striking of Garrett Armfield. And when I ran back the tape, I was pretty impressed. Even against Onama, it was a rematch, which is funny, but it's up a weight class. Onama was much bigger. And I thought the striking really looked good there. And then I went back to the regionals, and it was still there. So I have some concerns that he can catch Jose Johnson. But overall, because I think Johnson at range will be getting the better of him, in the clinch, like you said, he's just dirty. He's got those elbows. He's got knees. I don't know if Armfield wants to go in the clinch. And then on the ground, like Armfield's going to have to mind his P's and Q's the entire fight because Johnson will sub you in round 3, round 2, round 1. He doesn't care. So I like Johnson as a dog. I definitely wouldn't play him if he was like pick 'em or favorite, but looks like the market's all over the place. Like DraftKings money's coming in on Johnson. He's plus 125. Bet online, you can get plus 140 right now. And money's going in on Garrett. So I can't really read that, but I like plus 140 if you want to hop in on Bet Online.
That's not a bad line at all, and I see what you're saying because this is a good stylistic matchup for Armfield, and that Johnson would be great if you just kind of stood in front of him, right? And then he could kind of manage range and use that 6-foot frame, that 71-inch reach, to pick you apart at range. But Armfield's not going to let you do that. He's going to march forward. He's going to be thrown in combination. He's going to be staying in the pocket, staying in your face, mixing in those takedowns. So it's a tough stylistic matchup for Johnson. But what I see from him is just the ability to lose fights up until he wins them because he's so explosive, whether it's with his submissions or his striking. So very interesting way to start off the card. I'm really looking forward to this fight.
Yeah, it's a great fight. And I feel like, what were they supposed to fight different people? No, that was a different fight.
That's Peak against Gonzalez. They both had different dance partners. They both fell out and they're like, all right, now you're fighting each other. And then I was like, dude, why wasn't that the fight to begin with?
I kind of love when they
talk about that one later, man.
I'm looking at it though. Gonzalez was supposed to fight Darius Flowers, and I want to see his debut so bad.
Yeah, it's a shame he pulled out because he got hurt, right?
I think so, something like that. But all right, we can move on to the next one. And man, I was so excited to fade Ailin Perez, and I talked myself out of it, but we'll talk in a sec. We've got Hailey Cowan versus Ailin Perez. Cowan is 7-2-0, 31. She's 5'8", 70-inch reach. And I've got her at, let me double check my notes.
70-inch reach for her?
I'm going off Tapology. It's 69.3, so I kind of just round it.
UFC Stats has got her at 67.
Let's go with them then, because they probably have it more accurate. So we're going to say 67-inch reach. And for the camp, do you have anything that's not this Blitz camp?
Yeah, I got Blitz Sport. That's what I got. And I think that's what she said on DWCS, which was her last fight. So probably still Blitz Sport.
She needs to go to a bigger camp. But all right, Perez, same record, which is cool. She's 3 years younger, 3 inches shorter. And if Cowan has that 67-inch reach, she's got a 1-inch reach disadvantage, training out of MMA Masters. So I'll start this one. I came into this. I remember Perez. I remember everything she was saying leading up to her Stephanie Egger fight. Nunes is scared of me. I'm going to be the next title challenger. Like, you just got here. Like, this is the definition of that Conor moment when he's like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, literally, that's Nunes probably waking up to that Twitter news and being like, literally, who is this? And then after her performance, I was like, yeah, I'm going to fade her. But I don't think it's the move to fade her with someone who's very green. And while I think that on the feet, Cowan will probably like really find a lot of success. I really like Cowan's striking. I thought she does a lot of things well. I really like her counters. I think those are slick. The combinations are good. And when she's on the feet, she's got a good output. Now, I emphasize that because her takedown defense is questionable. On the Contender Series, she did defend 3 of 4 takedowns, but it was a close fight and she got held down a lot. The other girl got a lot of control time. And we've seen her get out grappled by people who are not good. She got submitted in 2021. The woman is 2-2-0 right now. I believe she was 1-2-0 at the time. It was a guillotine, so it's not like she got murked on the ground, but she's susceptible to that. And because of the takedown defense questions I have with her, I can't go against Perez here because Perez, has that dog in her. Like, we can make fun of her all we want for the Nunes call out, but it shows like she's in it to win it here, and she really wants this. That's not always enough to pull wins. Her striking defense is abysmal. UFC Stats has 31%, which makes sense watching her fight. She's very hittable, even on the regional scenes. And I really don't think she's high caliber at all. I do think Cowan probably wins, but I can't touch her with my money because I think that Perez could get takedowns. And if she does, if she can just crowd on Cowan, use her pressure, make her uncomfortable, I think she's got the tools to win. So I don't hate anyone playing Perez as a dog. My pick is Cowan, but there's no way I'm touching it. How about you, Weezy?
Yeah, this was one I just spent a bunch of time writing up. I watched a ton of tape on both of them, took a bunch of notes. And after all that, I was like, I don't know who's winning this fight. You got Cowan, who's really good in the clinch, too. She's strong, former gymnast, two-time All-American gymnast at Baylor. Prior to college, she's All-American, go like a medalist in some of these competitions, fitness competitions, cheerleading competitions. She's just from an athletic family, and she's got an athletic build, a great body for the space, because she's long, she's lean, she's athletic, she's explosive. Those head kicks get up there real quick, but there's holes in the game too. She's been doing this just 6 months longer than Ailin Perez. They both only have 9 professional fights. And I think actually Ailin might be a little bit better on the feet. That's where she had success against Stephanie Egger, but she wasn't smart enough to not go into that clinch. And the thing is like, I think once this thing gets into the clinch, they're both so good there that I really don't know who's going to win the minutes there. I could see Ailin Perez getting takedowns. I could see her maybe even landing the bigger shots on the feet. And I think that she can win minutes in the clinch here. But at the same time, I also think Cowan might. She's had 2 fights, Mike, where she could have easily lost the decisions. The Leavitt fight on DWCS, it was 1 round apiece going into that 3rd round. That 3rd round was back and forth, very close. The Brittany Cloudy fight, I don't think she won that fight, dude. She kind of held Brittany up against the cage, but every time that got into the middle of the cage, Brittany's piecing her up, walking her down, landing combinations. So, I'm picking Hailey Cowan to win this fight by split decision. I think fight goes to split might be the way that I actually bet this fight, because I'm so non-committal on the side, and I'm so non-committal on which one of these ladies is better everywhere, because I honestly don't know. I think this fight goes to decision, and I think that it's going to be very, very close. So I could see this being real greasy, and I've seen Hailey get the benefit of some close decisions before, so I'm picking her to win.
Weezy, what do you think of the fight goes to decision? It's -160 on Bet Online. That kind of seems off to me, no?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised on that, but here's the thing, right? Ailin Perez has 2 losses, and both of them are inside the distance. One by DQ, one by submission. Hailey Cowan has 2 losses, both inside the distance by submission. So, in their 4 combined losses, they've been finished, So I can see why, maybe stats bettors, analytics bettors would be betting the under in this fight. But if we go to my prop template here, where I have all the analytics, division by division, we can always determine how that line is priced against the benchmark for the division. And for some reason, my computer is like not working at all. So go on.
My Wi-Fi gave out right before the show, Weezy, and I was losing my mind. So I totally get it. I was like, of course, 20 minutes to the show, my Wi-Fi is completely out. I tried calling them. Apparently, there's a code. I don't have the code. So I was like, God damn it. It worked out.
Okay, so I just found it now. Fight goes to decision. I had it -160 yesterday. That's a 63.5%, or 61.5% implied probability, but 63.5% of these fights are going to decision. So it looks like it's a fairly priced line to me.
Not worth it then, right? And real quick,
I wouldn't bet it, just because, like I said, they've both been finished in all their losses. So I could see maybe one of them getting a finish. It's a weird fight, and I just don't have a good handle on it.
Such a weird fight, but I'm like strangely excited to watch it. I just feel like there's so much like Ailin Perez. She's done a good job promoting herself all over Twitter because of the things she's saying. So I'm excited to watch her. And real quick, I brought up this comment from Person Mischief, because he always gives me crap for not having a headboard. I recently moved. I guess now it's a month ago. And yeah, I still don't have a headboard. Prince of Mischief, maybe not next week. Like Brandon Moreno said, maybe not today, maybe not next week, maybe not even for a few years. But eventually, I'm going to get a headboard.
Yeah, right? There you go. There you go, man.
But all right, we can move on to the next fight. Very excited for this one. We've got Nurullo Aliev versus Rafael Alves. Aliev is 8-0, undefeated as a pro. He's 23 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. And for his camp, I believe he's in the States. Weezy, do you know where?
So he's trained at Tiger Muay Thai. He's trained at Kill Cliff FC, which is Sanford. But the name that I have is Kaizen MMA because he's out of Tajikistan. So I mean, but he said, I believe when he was on the Contender Series that he had trained with Gilbert Burns over at Sanford. He was training with Fisayev and Kimaev down there at Tiger Muay Thai. So he's gotten around. He's gotten out of Tajikistan and gotten some really good looks.
That's good to know. That's good to know. And then for Alves, he's, what is that, 2011 and 32 years old. He's going to be, 2 inches shorter. He's going to have a 4-inch reach disadvantage, and I've got him at MMA Masters. Yeah. Wheezy, why don't you start us off, man?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, man, because the way I have this one capped is it's minute winning versus moment winning. Rafael Alves is a great moment winner. He's very explosive on the feet. When he hurts people, he tries to finish you with his guillotine. But because, like most people that are very confident in their guillotine, they're massive minute losers because going for that move 100% trying to finish the fight means you're going to be on your back. And it's not like people don't know this dude's going to go for the gilly, right? So when you go for it over and over and over again, you become a bit predictable, and that can be a problem sometimes. So in this case, Alves, in my opinion, he's kind of got like a puncher's chance here. And outside of that, I just don't see him winning minutes. First of all, he's very low volume on the feet. And that's a problem for me because, you've got to catch, when you're low volume, you're just getting outpointed. And it means that you're just waiting to land that big shot. And, guys like us, Mike, we can't afford to be betting on people like that. We don't bet their money lines. We just say, all right, I'll take the inside the distance prop because these guys aren't winning decisions. That's not how they win fights usually, even though Alves is better in decisions than he is overall because he's been finished in 10 of 11 losses. So it's a very interesting fight. But my pick is going to be Aliev by decision because I can see him getting takedowns. And I don't think he has to necessarily shoot blast double legs where he's going to have his head on the outside. But if he does, he can just do it to whatever side Alves prefers to not do his guillotines on. So if Alves is right-handed and he wants his guillotine with the right hand, then you shoot to the left-handed side when you're shooting the double leg. That simple. But, maybe Alves can get him with both arms. I don't know that. But either way, I think Aliev's going to out-wrestle this dude, outlast him, and win a decision.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. So for me, like Alves is the 155 version of Michel Pereira. The dancing, the movement.
Yeah.
Threw a capoeira kick, I believe, in the Dober fight, and it actually came really close to hitting. I was very impressed. And my favorite moment was, I think it was round 2. I don't remember, where he, like, Dober missed, and then Alves just did like this, and then he like did some walk thing and actually moved his head, missed a bunch of shots. It was great. It would have been much better if then he knocked out Dober, but he did not. So I do have a special place in my heart for Alves. He's a lot of fun, and I hope no matter how much he loses, they keep him around. But, man, Aliev, I tried to fade him on his Contender Series bout because I was like, look, it's Russian, kind of like what we just saw this past week with Ashkabov. I was like, I think his record's padded. There's no way he's this good. And the other guy wasn't good at all. But I placed a small shot. He was a big underdog, and I felt like he was a way better striker. Maybe he can keep it on the feet. Man, this dude's nickname is very accurate. I think it's like the Tajik Eagle, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I believe that's a reference to Khabib. And like, not only does he fight like Khabib, like very much so, like just going for those takedowns. And once he gets it, just the pressure is so intense. He also looks like him, which is just a little bit
exactly
freaky.
Like him, dude.
It's the whole thing is crazy, but I feel like he's going to have a very similar run because of that. The skills just match up, and the wrestling is so good. It's so good. It's so dominant. And Alves, like you said, he'll pull guillotine and then get stuck on his back the entire fight. I think he's going to win some moments. And I guess the one concern is this new judging that like wrestling almost doesn't matter half the time if there's nothing happening. So I guess there's some concern if maybe Aliev is getting hurt on the feet and he's getting takedowns but not doing anything. But overall, I don't really see that happening. And I thought the line was pretty generous. I played at -163 for 2 units, and I feel relatively good about that bet. I feel like if Alves is going to win, he's got to do it ITD, which might be an interesting look, actually. Decision, no action. Pulling it up
Yeah,
real
it
quick.
could be, but I worry about this guy Aliev getting on top of him, because like we've seen the tape on him, right? And you're like, okay, he gets on top, and then maybe takes his foot off the gas a little bit, right? But on the
Mm.
Contender Series, he comes in and he gets that finish, but he's only 22. Like he might start getting on top and just be really heavy and able to land this crazy ground and pound, and he might get this dude out of there. I mean, it could happen, but Alves is such an opportunistic finisher. So that's what I kind of worry about here on the Aliev side is is Alves going to find that moment? Is he going to spark him, jump guillotine, and it's just going to be too late for the kid?
Yeah, I mean, remember the Demir knockdown? Just
Yeah.
knocked him right down, and I
Yep.
believe he won round 3 there too, right?
Dude, he won the third round. He was pressuring. He was hurting Demir. It was pretty crazy. I was like, I don't remember him winning this third round, but he did, man. That second half of the round, he really turned it on, turned up the pressure, and he started throwing some volume.
Yeah, so for that reason, like I wouldn't go too crazy on Aliev, but I do like him. I don't love this new line of minus 180. I guess minus 179 isn't too far from what I got. I don't know. I like him. I like him to win. I just wouldn't parlay him up for a ton of units. That's for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
And we can move on to the next one. Me and Wheezy were talking about this. It sucks they bring in people who just aren't really of the caliber we need right now. We've got Joe Solecki versus Carl Deaton III. Solecki is 12-3-0. He's 29 years old, 5'9" with a 70. Tapology says 70.5. Wheezy, is it different?
For Deaton or for Solecki?
For Solecki.
I've got 70 for Solecki.
All right, so we're going to go with 70, and he's at a gym O. Deaton on the other side, he's 17-5-0. He's going to be 4 years older, 3 inches shorter, and I've got him at a 3-inch reach disadvantage. And for his camp, I've actually got Extreme Couture just based off of his Instagram. I know that it says American Top Team, but I did find a picture of him there. I don't remember if I checked the date, so maybe it's old. I would take that with a grain of salt. But if he is there, I actually really, really like Extreme Couture. But I'll start this one off. I mean, there's really not much to talk about. There's a reason Solecki's a tremendous favorite, minus 600. Would I play him here? No, I really wouldn't. I have him in a chalk parlay that I'll talk about as we go on, but that's one unit. I'm not doing anything more with him. I think the price, I don't know if you can say it's off. It's just unplayable. Like, look at what was it? We just saw this. Elvis Brenner and Zubaira, right?
Yeah.
Man, like you just can't trust it always. You never know what's going to happen. And I honestly, I need to rewatch that. I was pretty drunk. I don't remember if it was a robbery or not. I know a lot of people felt it was, but either way, you can't trust these minus 600s with the way judging is recently. It's very scary to trust them. All that said, I think he should be better in most places. I wouldn't necessarily say he's the better striker because to me, watching him in the UFC, he seems a bit uncomfortable on the feet. He'll like kind of flurry in. He doesn't have like nice shots to set it up for the takedown. He'll flurry in and then get the takedowns. And once he does, he's very good. I mean, to compete against Alex Da Silva on the ground, like I felt Da Silva won that fight. I'm also extremely biased. I had him at like plus 220, I think. But there's holes. I just don't think that Deaton can expose them. I think that once Solecki gets him down, I don't know if it's over in terms of a submission, but I think it's over in terms of he'll grind him out, he'll win minutes, and eventually get that decision, if not the sub. I don't know if you did, Wheezy. I didn't see a lot in terms of Deaton's takedown defense. I didn't see it tested very much in the tape that I watched. But he does have 9 sub wins. That said, only one is recent. He got a sub in his 2022 fight over Antoine Blasingame.
Yeah.
But before that, his last subs were 2017, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 12, and 11. So pretty distant. And it's not like Solecki's submitted anyone that recently. Last one was 2020, but all of them are more recent and against better competition. My just biggest question is, does Deaton have good takedown defense? Because low key in the striking, I think he might be better. Again, the competition's worse, so I can't fully know. But from what I'm just seeing, I actually think he might be a little better in the striking. But that said, I think Solecki wins. How about you, Weezy?
Yeah, I mean, I think he wins. There's just not much I can do here. I tried to start watching tape on Deaton. took one look at his haircut and I was like, I can't watch this, man. You know, I mean, nobody's really paying me to watch this, so I'm not watching it. And you know, in the line, like you say, I mean, what am I saying? Am I supposed to start laying juice for Solecki inside the distance? No, that's a good way to lose your bankroll, is just to take these minus 600 favorites and then be like, all right, I'm going to pay over a 50% implied probability for what I think their best win condition is, because they have a funny way of, you know, disappointing you in some of those spots. You know, I mean, like Zubaira, I had him to win by first round knockout. I knew a minute into that round that wasn't going to happen. I'm like, holy shit, this guy. Well, actually, I knew because I bet it before he missed weight. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man. You really missed weight up a weight class. And I knew, I'm like, this guy doesn't care anymore. So, yeah, I'm not touching this fight, dude. And I'm not putting myself through watching one of the worst haircuts on planet Earth, which is Carl Deaton III. That's, I mean, like, a mullet's bad, but this isn't even a mullet. I don't even think you could categorize it as that. This is in its own category, and that category is horrible.
I'm really glad you brought up the haircut, because I don't know if you saw Clint's episode yesterday. I think it was yesterday for Die Hard MMA. So the show's going on. They get to the Deaton fight.
I remember this, yeah.
And someone in the comments is just like, what a bad haircut. And poor Clint thought he was talking about him.
Yeah.
Good for Clint. Clint took it right on. Like he didn't care at all. But then John's reactions were so funny. Like Clint clipped it up today and posted it. And it was just such a funny exchange. I thought that was hilarious. Deaton's haircut.
I even typed in the chat, he's not talking about your haircut, brother. You know, like I know he's talking about Deaton's.
Weezy, who do you think has the worst haircut? Deaton? Or I think it was Jai who pulled up with like the weird leopard thing.
Yeah, well, Jai could get that dye washed out. You know, I mean, that's the difference there. I mean, it's going to take Deaton. You know, he's either got to shave that shit in the back and completely start from scratch, or you know. So, yeah, man. Like, I just think the dye jobs are bad, but like doing what Deaton did, my God, just horrible.
As Brady would say, get help, right?
Yeah, get some help. Get some help, Carl Deaton III.
But all right, we can move on to the next fight. And this is honestly a banger. I'm hyped for it. We've got Ode Osbourne versus Charles Johnson. Osbourne's 11-5-0. He's 31 years old, 5'7" with a 72-inch reach, training out of Syndicate MMA is what I've got. Johnson, he's 13-3-0, 32. He's 1 year older. Going to be 2 inches taller, but give up 2 inches in reach. And I do believe his most recent camp was at Tiger Muay Thai. That's based off of Tapology and Instagram, so we'll go with that. Yeah. And I'll start this one off. Honestly, I've liked Osbourne quite a bit in previous fights. I backed him, I think, in like maybe the last 3 or 4. And like I went live for the Vergara fight. I actually just walked through the doors of the stadium once the fight was going on, and I had Ode Osbourne pretty big there. And I was pretty concerned. And what I learned from that fight was he can't really handle pressure. Yeah. He's got a difficult time with pressure, and that's what I learned. And Charles Johnson, you know, he can be pretty flat-footed. I don't love that about him, but he will pressure forward, especially if he feels comfortable. And, you know, I've been listening to him. Normally, I don't give much credence to interviews, and even now I don't. But I was listening to him in Narco Cop's Twitter space. He actually pulled up, and he was just talking about, like, his mindset was so dope. Someone mentioned him fighting Matt Schnell. And he's like, I don't want to fight Matt Schnell. He has no chin. Like, he's not looking for easy fights. He's looking for tough fights. And I really like that about him. And the fact that he's stepping up to fight Ode Osbourne, I believe on short notice too. I really like that. And the way I see it, the striking is really similar to me. Both use their length very well. The first thing I noticed, literally the first thing in my notes for both guys in their striking is the front kicks to the body. They both do it and both do it really well. Johnson throws a ton of leg kicks. You like that, especially against someone long like Ode Osbourne. Stop their movement. And in terms of the hands, I think I lean Osbourne, but I like the kicks of Johnson a bit more. I do like that Ode will mix targets. So will Johnson, but a little less in my opinion. It's going to be very close. But I just feel that as the fight progresses, Charles is going to find more and more success. I do think he's going to pressure forward. I do think he's going to bring the fight to Ode. And I do like his striking overall, I guess a little bit more if we're considering the clinch, if we're considering in the pocket. And in terms of wrestling, right, I don't really think either guy's going to wrestle.
Yeah.
But if someone does, I think it'll be Johnson. He hasn't done it, I think, at all in the UFC. But on the regionals, he did. He has wrestled. It's not his go-to, but he could do it. And another thing I do really like, again, it might not be relevant. Maybe Ode doesn't get him down. But when he does get taken down, he scrambles right up. He held up very well against Zalgas when he was trying to shoot. So I like Johnson. I kind of messed up the line movement. I got minus 195. And I believe he's now, what is it? Minus 150 on
Bet Online.
Yeah. So, I mean, personally, I would definitely say that's if you like Johnson, if you agree with my breakdown, I think that's a really good line. I wish I got that one. What do you think, Wheezy?
Yeah, this is one I've really had a hard time picking. You know, I think the line is, it was a little wide. Now I think it's making a little more sense. The one thing that really bothers me about Charles Johnson is he could be very low volume at times, and he's a slow starter. And look, his fights against Carlos Motatizil and Horiuchi on the regional scene, which were both 5-round fights. I mean, I thought he lost 4 out of 5 rounds to Horiuchi. I thought the first 3 rounds of the Tizil fight were, flip a coin who won any of those rounds. But in the 4th round, about halfway through, maybe with about 2 minutes left in the 4th, it was like a switch just flipped for Johnson. And he was like, holy shit, I'm going to fight. And he just went after him. And he destroyed him. End of the 4th round, beginning of the 5th round, he gets him out of there right away. Horiuchi, he just turns it on in the 5th and just puts it on him. In the 3rd round against Zalgas, dude gets his calf shut down 15 seconds into the round, spends the next minute and a half stamping his foot into the canvas, and then he turns it up and really puts it on Zalgas. But there's things that are bothering me here, right? The Horiuchi fight really bothered me. It bothers me that he starts slow. It bothers me that he fouled Zhalgas Zhumagulov 4 times in that fight. 2 nut shots, 2 eye pokes. 3 of them stopped the fight. 1 of them didn't even get called, and it was the worst eye poke out of the 2. No points taken. And plus, I think he did lose that fight. I think he lost the 1st and the 2nd round to Zhalgas. So I'm like, why am I laying juice on this guy when what I see on the feet is that these guys are very well matched? What I see in the wrestling is that neither one of these guys is winning minutes with their wrestling. I think that this is going to be a very close fight that goes to decision. And I'm picking Charles Johnson to win by decision because I think he's going to do more late. And I think he's probably just more equipped to win a 15-minute decision than Ode Osbourne is, who's been been reliant on winning moments rather than minutes.
Once you started talking about all that, Weezy, I pulled up Johnson round 3 real quick because you were saying how he's a slow starter. And that's the first thing that hit my mind. So on Bet Online, it's plus 800. So I don't like that. I'm hoping we get something better. I don't know what's wrong with Caesars. It says minus 10. What is that, 10 or 100? Minus 100,000.
Yeah, see, there's no value there, man.
Parlay that
saying
up
it's a 99.99% chance, man. It's like, what are you going to do?
Oh, man. But all right, we can move on to the next fight. I am hyped for this one, though, and not so hyped for this one we're about to talk about. We've got Jordan Leavitt versus Victor Martinez. Leavitt is 10-2-0. He's 27 years old, 5'9" with the 71-inch reach, and I do believe he's still at Syndicate. Victor Martinez, 13-4-0. He's going to be 4 years older. He's going to be 1 inch shorter, 1 inch reach disadvantage, and we're going with Tapology because similar to Jose Johnson, I could not find his Instagram. So I have Team Ferreira. And Weezy, start us off, man.
Yeah, Team Ferreira / Fortis, because Ferreira's Diego Ferreira. So this is he trains with him down in Far Texas, and we know that Diego does that 7-hour drive to go up to Fortis to train. What a maniac, man. Just move to Dallas. What are you doing in Far Texas? But anyway, yeah, this is what I've got to bet on. Watch the tape on both guys. I think that this is a perfect stylistic matchup for Jordan Leavitt here. He's younger, he's taller, he's longer, he's the southpaw. Victor Martinez doesn't have great takedown defense. And dude, every time this guy gets up, he gives up his back. On the regional scene against guys like Echeverry, Martinez got taken down 4 times in the first round and got his back taken twice. And Echeverry was just super sloppy. He was going for submission over position, and he wind up falling off, or just, not really keeping position well. But I mean, like, I see this being easy for Jordan Leavitt. I don't think Victor Martinez is that good. He seems like a one-dimensional boxer to me. He's good when he's pressuring, but he doesn't actually pressure as much as I'd like him to. And then he's been submitted in 2 of 4 losses. He's listed as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but you wouldn't know it. I mean, like, when do you see Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts just giving up their back every damn time they're on the ground? They'll never do that. But Victor Martinez does it all the time. So, I see Leavitt getting an early takedown here. I see him getting to this dude's back, and I see him finishing the fight. I think it's Leavitt by first round sub. I've got 1 unit on his money line, and I'm going to be waiting for DraftKings and FanDuel and Bet Rivers to open up these props, and I'm going to be looking to get Leavitt by first round sub at something like plus 500 or better, maybe even more. But that's what I'm looking for this fight.
Wheezy, man, I'm so glad you said all that. I'm on the same side. And pre-tape, I thought, no way, Jose, because I kind of lump in Jordan Leavitt with like Chase Hooper because they're very similar to me. Both wrestle
Ryan
similar.
Hall even.
Yeah, right. Maybe not so much Ryan Hall because neither guy's like. I guess Chase Hooper actually did literally do that in one fight where they're just dropping for the ankle.
Yeah,
and he got it. I bet the other dude. Don't remember his name. I think he's long cut, but he was winning until Hooper just went and went and went. But back to
that was slippery Pete Barrett.
Yes,
yeah.
He was literally winning. I had him at like plus 250 or something like that. And once Hooper started going for those ankle things, I was like, damn, he's gonna get one, isn't he?
Yeah,
and he did. But for this fight, yeah, I mean, after watching the tape, I really like Leavitt. I think this is probably the most binary fight on the card. And like when you tape it, it's so clear. Like Martinez is nothing but a boxer, and he's a very decent, very good boxer, I would say. Yeah. I almost said decent because he hasn't fought that great of competition. So I don't know if I'm ready to like really hype him up, but his boxing's clearly better than Leavitt. Leavitt's got okay striking, but it looks very awkward. And you look at the numbers, like I always say this stat because I think it's crazy. Against Ogden, he landed 60 significant strikes, something like that, right? I think it was 69. I think I miswrote it, but 52 of those were leg kicks. He's throwing nothing with his hands. He's just throwing leg kicks. Now, I actually thought he looked a little bit better in the Paddy fight in both his wrestling and his striking. His striking looked half decent. He was throwing that front kick to the body that I really love. And his wrestling worked against Paddy. Paddy's thing is grappling. In the first round, a lot of people felt that Leavitt won that fight. In that round, I mean. I had the over 1.5 there, Wheezy. I was sweating bullets. It hit by like 7 seconds. Ooh. It was so stressful. Yeah. But yeah, I think realistically, like Wheezy said, you look at the regional tape, and when he's getting taken down, Martinez, he's giving up his back. He's not getting upright. And Nico Echeverry, who's a regional dude who probably will never make it to the UFC, was having a good time with him on the ground. And Leavitt he's not a joke on the ground. He's not. He's really good there. His wrestling is really solid. And I know a lot of people hate him because he likes to twerk and whatnot, but that's not a reason not to bet him. I've been waiting on the line. Just now, when you mentioned you hopped in, I pulled it up. Money's coming in on him on Bet Online. He's plus 100.
That's where I got him.
Across the board, money still seems to be coming in on Martinez, but no plus money yet on Leavitt. It says BetMGM, but best fight odds and BetMGM don't work well together. They are like constantly out of sync. So I don't really trust them, but I'll either play this immediately after stream on Bet Online, or I might try to wait and see what I get on the other books. But every time I try to wait and see, I get burnt. So I'll probably play it. I do like Leavitt, and I like what you were saying about the sub, Wheezy, because I actually think he's going to submit him. It's just plus 200. That's kind of not great, right?
Yeah, that's not great. That's why I just took the money line because, I could see him winning 2 out of 3 rounds by just getting takedowns and ground control time. And what's hilarious is, I started tracking these distance striking statistics because they're so important. Jordan Leavitt at distance, right, when he's not in control time positions, which is 50% of his fights, or I'm sorry, only 33% of his fights, he's landing 6.91 significant strikes per minute and only absorbing 4.08. So even though Jordan Leavitt is never going to knock anyone out, with his hands or with his kicks, he uses his striking in a very intelligent way. Great grapplers shouldn't do anything but kick because they don't give a fuck if you take them down. And Jordan Leavitt's showing 30% takedown defense. He doesn't care if he gets taken down. He wants that fight on the ground any way he can get it there. And this guy Martinez is a black belt. I don't think he's going to like being on the ground with Jordan. And I don't think Jordan's going to have any problems getting it there. So, yeah, it's an interesting stylistic matchup. But, when I finished watching the tape, I was like, I'm easily getting to 1 unit on the Leavitt money line. And then I might mess around a little bit more past that.
Yeah, I was the same way. Once I finished the tape, I was like, I like Leavitt here. I do. But we can move on to the next fight. And we've got Gabriella Fernandes versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. Fernandes is 8-1-0. She's 29 years old, 5'6" with the 60. It says 67.5. What do you have, Weezy?
For Gabriella, that's what I have as well, because I don't think they even have her on UFC stats with her reach yet.
All right, so I'll round her up to 68, and she's training out of Kimura Team Jaraho on Tapology, and I couldn't find otherwise. For Jasmine, 7-2-0. She's going to be 4 years older, 1 inch taller, and the same reach, training out of Niagara. I've actually got her at American Top Team now, not Niagara Top Team.
Oh, cool. All right.
That's what I saw on Instagram, at least, which is great. That's a great move for her.
Yeah.
But I'll start this one off. Right now, it's only 2 fights, but I am 100% on Jasmine fights. I played her against Kay Hansen, played her by decision plus 300, one of my favorite bets I made. And then I played against her on the Silva fight. I was there live, so that was very dope to watch. She just got outworked in that fight. I mean, Silva is really good. She's one of, in my opinion, one of the best fighters to come off of a long layoff. And just the way she looked, it was so impressive. For me, this fight, again, it's relatively binary, but not as much as the last fight because I think Fernandes does have some grappling to her. Yeah. I do have questions about her takedown defense. I only really got to see it tested in a 2019 fight against a woman who did not look like a fighter. Let's just say it that way. A gas station attendant, Uber driver, whatever you want to say. And she got taken down by one of the most simple single legs I've ever seen and held down. And that's problematic. But again, that was in 2019. It's very likely she's improved there. Unfortunately, we haven't seen it tested, but I do think it's probably going to hold up for the most part. Jasudavicius, she is getting some takedowns, but it's not like she's an elite wrestler, even though she has these Canadian national credentials. It doesn't seem to really be transferring over to MMA. And in the striking, I don't think it's even close. I think Fernandes is dirty in the striking. When I first turned on her tape, I was like, who is this? Super fast hands. The counter game is nasty. I just love everything about what she does on the feet. The way she pieces together combinations, punch, punch, kick, punch, punch. Just a lot to love. So for me, I played 1 unit on Fernandes at minus 114. I actually did 1.2 units. And my thought process is just, I think she's going to keep it on the feet and win the minutes there, if not even get a finish, because I love her hands. But can't go too crazy. Don't have much recent info on her takedown defense, and Jasmine can get takedowns. What do you think, Weezy?
Yeah, I think if this fight takes place on the feet, that Gabriella is going to beat 7 shades of shit out of Jasmine. She is absolutely awful on the feet. You want to hear the distance striking numbers for Jasmine? This is at distance. So now, I mean, she's landing 2.7 per minute, absorbing 4.67 per minute. That's just significant strikes overall because she spends a lot of time in control time positions. Per minute at distance, she lands 3.03 and absorbs 7.07, dude. You want to talk about getting your ass kicked at range. And by the way, It's Natalia Silva, who's got a 5-inch reach disadvantage. It's Kay Hansen, who's got a 5-inch reach disadvantage. And back in DWCS, where I don't have the stats, Julia Pilastri's kicking her ass at range. She is absolutely awful. And I think that if this fight even takes place at distance striking range for 5 out of 15 minutes, that there's a very good chance that Jasmine Jasudavicius is going to wake up looking at the lights here. Gabriella Fernandes by knockout is plus 700 on Bet Online, and that's something I'm definitely taking a look at. And I'm also going to be looking at where that opens on other sites, because it might even be fatter, because Gabby just has just as many submissions as she does knockouts. So it's weird, you know. It looks like she's kind of like a submission artist, but she's not, man. She's a boxing coach, and she is a phenomenal striker. And Jasmine is going to be so out of her league on the feet here that if she doesn't get takedowns in every damn round and rack up 3 to 4 minutes of control time, I think that this is the kind of fight where you could see Jasmine getting 10 minutes of control time and losing on the scorecards with that new kind of scoring criteria where they're really only giving a shit about damage and they're not pretending like wrestling doesn't mean anything, you know? So, you know, I like Fernandes here, but instead of just betting the money line, because I could see Jasmine absolutely winning minutes in the clinch and in the wrestling, I think I might just play her by what I think is her best winning condition, bring the investment from a full unit down to a quarter unit, and just go that plus 700 by KO.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because that's the first prop that stood out to me. I was surprised it's plus 700, but I think we're going to get something even better. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but usually FanDuel and BetRivers try to capitalize on people like me who love huge props. So they'll set it a little bit higher, which in my opinion is a pretty smart strategy, because those things usually miss. But
agreed.
I do think that this line's already off. So if they set it higher, I think it's going to be even more off. But we can move on to our next one. And this is going to be violence all day long. We've got Erick, the Ghost Pepper Gonzalez versus Trevor Peek. Gonzalez is 14-7-0. He's 31 years old, 5'11" with a 75-inch reach. And for him, I have Fight Science MMA, and that's what it says on Tapology. So for Peek, 7-0 undefeated. He's 28. He's going to be 3 years younger. He's 2 inches shorter and giving up 5 inches in reach. I could not find his gym, so we're going with Powell's Martial Arts Concepts. And Wheezy, start us off, man.
I can't wait for this fight, man. I'm already a huge Trevor Peek fan. He's not a technical fighter. He's not this like really well put together mixed martial artist. I mean, this dude would fight with a brick wall if he got bored. You know, I mean, he's just one of these old school Southern boys who's been in trouble since the day he was born. Probably got into fights and got kicked out of every school he was ever in. They were telling stories when he was on the Contender Series about he had 3 fights which weren't even on his Tapology record, where one of his buddies was just like, Trevor, you want to get into a fight? And he just jumped into the truck and they just drove him to a fight. And they just, all they had to ask him was, Trevor, do you want to fight? You know, and he was like, yeah. And he didn't even ask, like, who am I fighting? Where is it going to be? He just got in the car, man. And that's the kind of dude that this guy is. When he takes people down, he tries to throw you through the canvas, you know? When he throws punches, he's trying to launch your head out of the stadium that you are fighting in. When he's in the clinch, he's throwing knees and elbows with such bad intentions that he's trying to cut you up and end your life. And even though you might be better than him, if that ref doesn't come in and stop it, or that submission attempt that you have in doesn't break something in half or literally put him to sleep, this dude's going to keep coming, and eventually he's going to break you. And he only needs one shot to do it. Now, in a lot of ways, this guy Gonzalez is a similar type of fighter, but I mean, I just see Trevor Peek maybe killing somebody in the cage at some point. When you just watch the everything is with bad intentions, and he's just clearly tough. He's gonna outlast a lot of dudes. And if you're not supremely tough and extremely durable, or extremely technical, right? You're going to have a nightmare with this guy because even if you win the fight, you're probably going to the fucking hospital.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm with you. I went into this fight hesitant to do anything because I tried to fade Trevor Peek on the Contender Series. I was like, this guy is a mess. He has power. He's got that dog in him, but that's it. And I was right for the most part. I mean, I think I was probably right completely because what happened?
To be fair, Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No,
anybody but Beltran or Peterson stops that fight because Malik had him in all kinds of problems there. Yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
No, please. He was literally getting killed against Malik Lewis. I felt so good about my bet. And then Trevor Peek did what Trevor Peek does. He did not stop. Malik was like, what is happening here? And he got his own finish. And it was actually, he got on top, right? It was ground and pound. So for me, like low key, like in my notes, I kind of like put each aspect. I put like striking, who's got it, wrestling, who's got it. And in my notes, Gonzalez wins more categories than Peek does. I give him the competition edge by far. I give him the experience edge. I low-key give him the striking technique edge.
Yeah.
And then the grappling, I don't really know. Both guys have gone to it sometimes, not all that often. So I don't really have an opinion there. But I just feel that no matter what happens here, Gonzalez, even if he's winning, my gut is telling me Peek is going to find his chin. And watching his fights, it makes sense. Against Terrence McKinney, Terrence knocks out most people very quickly. But he actually hurt Terrence. And in my opinion, I think that's why Terrence shot. So that was relatively impressive to me. But then, he got finished. And then the Jim Miller fight, again, a bunch of success in the first round and then got finished. And what happened was, in my opinion, he was kind of not defending himself when he was running in there, when he was trying to close the distance. He was kind of just not defending himself. And Miller, the way he knocked him out in the second round, I mean, it was crazy. And that's just what I see. I think even if Gonzalez is winning minutes, he has to fight perfect. If he makes any mistakes, Peek is going to knock him the hell out. I'm actually curious what Peek decision no action is. Only reason I don't know if I would even play that is because I think Peek, if he does lose, it'll probably be ITD also. It's minus 210. That's not playable. But what I did was I played Peek minus 170, I think 2 or 74 to win 1 unit. And I'm hedging myself on DraftKings. I've got Gonzalez on a bunch of lineups. Did you guys do the show yet, Weezy? The DraftKings show you guys do every week?
No, we do that tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I watch that every week, guys. If you don't, you should check it out. So right now I've got Gonzalez as kind of my hedge on DraftKings because I do think that Peek, he's got so many problems. And while I don't think it's time to fade him just yet, I think it's going to be time to fade him pretty soon.
Yeah, we don't talk about guys like Peek where you say like, all right, well, what are their strong points? And it's all like intangible shit. Like you got to kill him to get him out of there. He's tough. He loves to fight. He's scrappy. He's mean, and he's just going to be tougher than literally 99% of the dudes that they put him in the cage with. He's just going to be tougher than them. He's probably taken more beatings in his life than most of these dudes. He's probably gotten his teeth knocked out a couple of times. He's one of those guys, but it's a rare skill set that we see that in the UFC where somebody's just like a complete shit-eating wild man who's trying to kill you. And even when you take him down, he just pulls this Derek Lewis Undertaker shit where he just stands back up. And it's like, what? How did he do that? But he's got that, that old man strength for a young man. It's a wild. Don't miss this dude's fights. You're gonna be entertained either way.
Never misses fights. He's so exciting. But if he wins this, I think his next fight is going to be such a good fade. We'll see though. They like to build up their prospects. They've been doing a lot better with that, I think, building them up a little bit.
Yeah. Sometimes, but other times, like Kakramanov, no.
Man, me and Weezy were talking about this earlier. That I hate that. I hate that happened.
Makes no sense.
He said it didn't happen, but I have to think something in negotiations went wrong. Because can you even name another example of someone? I actually think there have been a few earlier on, but recently, has anyone been cut after going like what was it, 3-1, 4-1 in the UFC against good competition. Like, I don't think
Yeah, he was calling names that nobody wanted. Nobody wanted to fight Said Nurmagomedov. Said Yokub was the only one who raised his hand. I don't understand it, man. But I do understand it because the UFC is a corporation now. It's not owned by the Fertitta brothers. They're working towards pleasing everybody but the fans. It's the board of directors, it's the stockholders, it's a bunch of wankers who don't give a shit about the sport. So they're doing what corporations do. Fuck everybody that gets on our way. We're going to make profits and we're going to shove it down your throat. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I heard this term said a bunch. I'm pretty sure the person who coined it, I don't remember their Twitter exactly. MMA AI something analytics.
Oh yeah, MMA AI. Yeah. That dude's videos are fantastic.
Yeah, so he's I believe the first one who called UFC right now the Netflix of MMA, and I thought that was extremely accurate because at this point, at least recently, they're just putting things out to put things out because they have to, and that's it.
Yep. And that's why we got a card like we got last week. That's why we're watching cards with Jordan Wright versus Sack Power as a co-main event, And then we get our eyes peeled by William Knight. I mean, come on, man. That's why we have cards like this. It's because the UFC is corporate now, and the fans are going to get screwed over as a result of that.
Even 284, like I thought that card was weak, considering look at your main event, the two best in the world.
Yeah,
the card is just weak.
Yeah, Justin Tafa versus Parker Porter on and we're supposed to pay $78 for it. It's like you can go scratch, man. We're not doing it.
With the pay-per-view prices, you gotta who is doing your business decisions? This doesn't make sense. And then Dana's freaking out at streamers. Freak out at your person who's setting these Netflix episodes at $80.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, and quit pretending like you're not fixing fights and shit too, because that's pissing me off. I mean, I know Paddy Pimblett's a prospect, but you can't in a sport like MMA pretend that somebody won a fight where they clearly lost all 3 rounds. It's going to become more like the WWE if they do that.
Did you see that clip during the Paddy fight? Like after the decision was read, Dana was with like the guys.
Yeah, the Barstool guys. Yeah,
he's like,
yeah. It was like when I would ask my Uncle Manny, "Hey, can you get me in on that underground card game?" And he'd give me that. Uncle Manny was the guy who, when I was 7 years old, would show up to family events, give me a $5 bill, and tell me to get a cheap piece of ass. I didn't even know what it meant. But I had one of those guys. So there you go.
But all right, we can move on real quick. Papa Chuck asking, Knight and Wright both got canned. Yeah, today they both got canned. And honestly, I would have been down for them both to fight before getting cut. That would have been fun. If Knight ever threw strikes again, that would be a fun fight.
I would pay money to watch Jordan Wright kick William Knight's ass as he stood there and did nothing. That'd be kind of a fun fight.
Win his first decision ever.
Yeah. Crazy.
But all right, we can move on to this next one. And man, I feel bad for Canada. Like they've been not doing great, and now they put 2 of their best prospects against each other. But we've got Mike Mallott versus Yohan Lainesse. Mallott is 8-1-1. He's 31 years old, 6'1" with a 73-inch reach, and I've got him at Team Alpha Male. Lainesse 9-1-0. He's 30 years old. He'll be 1 year older. I've got the same height, and I've got him with a 4-inch reach advantage. And for his camp, I've got TriStar based off of Instagram. So I believe that's where he's at now. And I'll start this one off. I mean, it's super hard to really break down this fight because there's no I say there's no tape on Mallott only because every fight is so quick. He's been to one decision. Everyone's been saying it all week. It went to draw. It was in the Bellator. I watched that fight. It was so ugly. But skill for skill, watching tape, I mean, it's Mallott all day. At range, Mallott's better. He throws more straight. If they're striking like that and Lainesse is going for the bigger shots, Mallott's going to land first. And the grappling, I give to Mallott as well. Lainesse will wrestle, but every time he does that, he tires himself out. Like I wrote it down. In the Green fight, he took him down and then lost. Got exhausted and lost by finish. In the Weeks fight, a lot of people felt Weeks won. And what happened there? He shot. He got exhausted from the fight. and he slowed down. And in many people's opinion, he should have lost. Now for Mallott, it's just you can't really trust him all that much. Even in the Gall fight, like his striking didn't look elite. Gall was landing on him pretty well. So it's really hard to kind of cap this fight for me. I think that Mallott probably wins, but once we get into round 2, it's going to be a complete toss-up. I won't know what to expect at all from Mallott. So I've got concerns with him. He is my pick just because skill for skill, I think he's better. And I think that Lainesse is mostly power dependent. He's a decent striker and he's looked better than I expected, but I think Mallott should win. But again, if we get out of round 1, round 2, who the hell knows? What do you think, Weezy?
Yeah, so I backed up the truck here. When the under 1.5 opened here, it opened at plus 125. I threw a unit on that. And the reason I did was because the under 2.5 opened and I missed it. And it just went, right? It went from it opened at minus something. It went to minus 180, minus 220, minus 240, minus 270 for the under 2.5. Then they moved it to a 1.5. I got in when that opened. Then they opened the fight doesn't go to decision on Bet Online, minus 210. I'm like, wait, you just had the under 2.5 at minus 275. This doesn't make any sense. So I max bet it. I hit it for 5 units, and I've been trying to find underdog spots. I prefer over the long run to be a guy who watches tape to find reasons to bet that plus 150 underdog like Evan Elder last week, and over the long term, make good decisions, find guys with paths to victory and beat those numbers, hit those 33% lines at a 45% clip and just, build that ROI. So when I see a line go out of whack like that, I mean, Mike Mallott's got 10 professional fights and his pro career has lasted 30 minutes. His average fight time is 3.01 minutes. Is this guy going to a decision with a guy like Lainesse, who's very front-loaded, who throws with a ton of power? But I still think it's Mallott. Even though there's no tape, even though the guy never fights, it's like people are like, oh, yeah, he had that draw against Deaton. Dude, that was 8 years ago. And that was in 2015 that fight happened. I mean, it doesn't matter anymore. You see what this guy's doing. He's very opportunistic with his submissions. And people were saying Gall was landing on him. No, he wasn't. Gall got sparked twice before he actually got dropped at the end of the first round. Mallott was landing 6.34 distance strikes per minute in that fight, and he was absorbing 3.62. And he was throwing about 2.5 more significant strike attempts per minute at distance as well. 58% striking defense, 56% striking accuracy. And Gall is taller and longer than Mallott is. 6'2", 74-inch reach instead of a 73 and 6'1" for Mallott. So even for Lainesse, he's explosive. I like him, but he doesn't have the conditioning in order to be able to mix in that wrestling. And I don't see nearly the technical striking that Mallott has. Mallott's the striking coach at Team Alpha Male, but he's also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who's a very opportunistic finisher. So, yeah, man, I see Mallott getting the win here, but I'm not laying that line. And frankly, inside the distance is probably almost the same as the money line anyway. So I've got 5 units on this fight not going to decision, and I got 1 unit on the under 1.5. So if this thing goes to decision, man, I might be crashing on your couch, Couch Warrior.
I've got a good couch, but I'm actually laughing because when we started the show, I literally said, I have a question for you in terms of a total. And you max bet that exact total that I was going to ask you about. It was this one. And before the show, I was looking at it, minus 260. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like chalk. But then you look at these guys and Mallott, well, I think, like we said, 1 decision. And then for Lainesse, I had
3,
right? And he did win all of those, which is pretty impressive. I feel like usually when you have a guy like that who's not getting to decisions often, they lose them. He won them. So that's, I guess, good. But overall, I think that under is a good spot. I don't know if I'll lay the chalk or just parlay it. There's not a lot of parlay pieces for me on this card, to be completely honest. In the last few cards, I've been super hesitant to parlay. I felt like a lot of these favorites, especially the heavy ones. It's just like not the move recently. But I am with you on that under, and hearing your confidence, I'm going to hop in some way without a doubt. I was literally going to ask you about it.
There you go, man. Yeah, I backed up the truck there. My rule is that I really don't like laying juice, but if I feel it's going to come in, my rule is, hey, would you max bet it, right? Because why just bet 2.2 units to win one when it's minus 220? When, man, just slam it for 5. Because if you're that confident, it probably means you got like an 85, 90% read on it. And at minus 200, it's 66%. So you should be able to max bet that, and over a long term, make money when you have those spots that do stick out.
Yeah, man, I love it. But we'll move on to the next one. I doubt we're going to have much to talk about or disagree about on this fight. We've got Tatiana Suarez making her long-awaited debut against Montana De La Rosa. Suarez 8-0, undefeated as a pro. She's 32 years old, 5'5" with a 66-inch reach. And for her camp, I'm going with Tapology at Millennial MMA. De La Rosa, 12-7-1, 28 years old. She's 4 years younger. She's going to be 2 inches taller and have a 2-inch reach advantage. For her camp, I'm also going with Tapology Elevation Fight Team. And Weezy, why don't you start us off, brother?
Yeah, see, I mean, there's not much I can do here because there's just all kinds of missing information about Tatiana Suarez. And I am not parlaying or betting on somebody that hasn't been in a cage in 3.5 years, that has had so many injuries. And now she's 4 years older than Montana De La Rosa. She's fighting at flyweight for the first time in her career when she's actually a strawweight. She's 2 inches shorter. She's at a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Montana De La Rosa has 12 more fights than her, 150 more minutes in the pro cage, 4 more UFC level fights, and she's got something like 6 fights in the UFC since Tatiana has even been in the cage. But then on the other side, you got this woman in Suarez whose wrestling is about as good as it gets. She's hitting her takedowns at a 63% clip. She's averaging 6.47 takedowns per 15 minutes. She spends over 75% of her fights in control time positions, and she's winning 98.5% of those control time positions. So Suarez should win this, but I can't bet it at this line. You don't lay that kind of juice on somebody that has as many narrative questions right now as Tatiana Suarez. I mean, if there's one girl that gets kicked in the knee and blows out her knee, it's Tatiana Suarez. Let's face it. She, an injury history in the sport of MMA is a massive red flag. I don't care how talented you are. And then in addition to that, you have to be very careful when you lay juice on women's MMA. There were other things at play here that oftentimes will make a minus 1,000 favorite look like a pick'em. And this could be one of those situations. Is her body going to hold up? Could she get injured in this fight? I mean, these are all things that could happen. And you got somebody like Montana who went to war with Mayra Bueno Silva, who's looking really good. And now she's fighting up at 135. I might even just take a quarter unit stab on Montana De La Rosa's money line just for the hell of it. Just because, whenever you talk about a minus 1,000 favorite shit in the bed, it's always a woman. It's always it. Amanda Nunes. What was her name? Agapova. And then you even got, and if it's going to be a dude, it's going to be some overhyped bum like that, like the guy that lost to Mike Jackson by DQ, Dean Barry, who just sucked. So this is one of those situations, man. I mean, we got to see Tatiana win a fight. We got to see her prove that at the age of 32, coming off all these surgeries, a serious knee injury, she's a cancer survivor. Is she going to be able to get in the cage and perform like a professional mixed martial artist? And we have to wait and see. But I'm picking her to win.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm with you. Do you bet anybody money line at minus 800?
No.
Not even
units to win, right? One when your max bet is 5. No, I don't do that.
Yeah. I don't know anyone who does that, honestly. And real quick, Prince of Mischief bringing this up, that Choi went the full 15 after 3 years. It might be rusty. Only thing I would rebut that with is I think that Suarez is a much higher level of just prospect and everything than Choi is. I know at one moment he was a very hot prospect, but since then we've seen that he's good, but has his faults. Whereas Suarez has been just spotless in the UFC, like completely spotless, killing everybody. Like I'm looking at her numbers now, it's incredible.
Yeah,
Like Amanda Cooper, like, all right, let's forget about that one. Viviane Pereira, she got 71 to 13 significant strikes, 4 takedowns. Alexa Grasso fighting for the title right now. Rear naked choked her in under 3 minutes. Esparza, one of the best wrestlers by far in the division, 9 takedowns, finished her on the ground. And then the Nina Nunes fight, honestly, wasn't as dominant as I'm sure a lot of people expected. But Nina Nunes isn't a bum. So there's not really much to say here. I did take a stab at Suarez ITD at plus 130. And a lot of people are telling me, Mike, why would you do that? The under was plus 155. It's no longer there. It's at plus 125. But for me, I really don't see De La Rosa getting any form of finish. If she gets the win, I think it's going to be Suarez way off and her getting the decision. And I'm sick and tired of playing 2.5s and then losing it, and then the finish comes like a minute later. Like, especially recently, finishes happen even late into the third. And I'm not willing to take that risk. I'd rather just go with the person who I think is going to get the finish, put 0.8 units on it to win, I think, just over 1, and call it a day, because we don't know exactly what she's going to look like. But if she comes in here how she used to be, this is the wrong opponent. Like, it's just going to be brutal. So, going to depend how she comes in, but I'm with you, obviously, minus 800.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm not touching this one unless it's maybe a small money line bet on Montana.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. When you said it, I was like, honestly, it makes sense. And you can probably wait, because I do think Suarez, so. I think Suarez will hit like minus 1,000 and you'll get like plus 750 on. At that point, I might have to hop in, honestly.
Yeah, for a quarter unit, I mean, like, dude, I mean, how many times somebody just said, yeah, we saw Kayla Harrison at minus 1,300 in PFL blow it. Dude, it happens all the time. And think about Tatiana Suarez, right? And let's just go a little bit conspiracy theory. Let's just say she's broke right now. She could bet on her opponent at plus 700 and take whatever money that she has and multiply it by 7. Wouldn't be the worst thing to do in the world, especially if you actually know, like, fuck, my body is not going to hold up so that I can fight in a cage for a living.
And I feel like she's also like, you look at like Andrade, right? I feel like a lot of fighters recently, when you get the feel that they're coming in for the money, like it ends up being right. Like, look at the Andrade fight with Blanchfield. I'm not going to sit here and say Blanchfield couldn't have won it either way. After seeing that, I have to think that Blanchfield was probably going to win that fight no matter what. But to me, it did seem like Andrade just came in there for that paycheck. And that happens very often. Donald Cerrone, Jim Miller. Like, we've seen it so much.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be shocked. And yeah, if it does hit plus 750, I love cheap plays. So I might get there too. But for this next fight, we've got our heavyweight mess of the week. We get one every single week for no damn reason. They leave out weight classes every week. There's one missing. Not this time. Not ever. Always some kind of heavyweight mess. It's kind of cool because if you look at like the bottom of heavyweight, you kind of just have a tournament. You got like Parker Porter, Parisian, what's his face?
Chase Sherman.
Vandera.
Yeah. Just Fat Barnett.
Oh, he has a fight scheduled against who? Man.
He's fighting. Is it Chase Sherman, I think. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, who's putting this shit together? And they're gonna be, they're putting that on the main card, and we're gonna be making fun of it all week.
One of my biggest, like, what did you do, Mike, moments was I played Fat Jake Collier for 4 units against Chris Barnett,
and he was so close to finishing that fight.
I was like, how does he lose this thing?
Yeah,
like, how does he lose this? And he loses it by being himself. And Chris Barnett just not giving up.
Yeah.
But I'll say, like, that was probably the happiest I possibly could have been losing 4 units, because it felt good to see Chris Barnett happy. I think news came out right after the fight. I don't remember what it was, so I won't just say it, but it was like something terrible happened to him. I think it was like in his family. And it was good to see him win, but Such a sloppy fight. But for this one, we've got Augusto Sakai taking a step down against Don'Tale Mayes. Sakai is 15-5-1, 31 years old. He's 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. And for him, I actually have American Top Team, I believe. For Don'Tale Mayes, 9-4-0. He's the same age. He's going to be 3 inches taller. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. And for him, I don't have anything, so I got to go with Bronx Hill MMA. Weezy, do you have anything different?
Yeah, I got Bronx Hill as well. You know, I think he's a kind of like a Kentucky boy who stays at home and trains there.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll start this one off. And first off, I just want to say I don't think that the Hamdi Abdel Wahab fight really means anything. I mean, forget him popping for all kinds of steroids. He's out for, what, like 3 years, I think?
2 years, yeah.
Forget that. Like, Sakai, first of all, is not a wrestler at all. And he's definitely not an Olympic level wrestler like Hamdi is. So yeah. I think you can take that fight and throw it out the window. Other than one thing, Hamdi on the feet was actually hurting Mayes as well, which is a terrible look. Terrible look. When I first saw the line, I was kind of like, you know, maybe Mayes can do this. Like the wrestling against Parisian looked really good. And then I was in my head, I was like, Parisian, man. And then I was looking at the losses, like who'd he lose to? Subbed by Nascimento, subbed by Gon. All right, not terrible. But like the competition's not even close. Like Sakai, he's losing, but he's losing to good guys. His defensive wrestling, yeah, he's getting taken down by Spivak, Overeem, Ivanov once. But is Mayes as good as any of those in grappling? I don't really think so. We didn't even know about his like wrestling until he pulled up against Josh Parisian. Wow. That was one of my best DraftKings nights ever because I put him in a bunch of lineups and he like killed it. He killed it. It was, I think I was looking today, he scored like plus, I think he scored like 120 or something like that, a little bit higher. And I just don't think he can replicate it here. I taped it and I was looking at it and I was like, all right, I really think that Augusto Sakai is probably going to win this. I do see Mayes trying to take him down. Maybe it works, but overall, I don't think it's going to work long-term over the 15 minutes of this fight. And I think Sakai will be live to actually knock him out as well. So the pick is Sakai. Not going to bet this with my money. I'm good there. What do you think, Weezy?
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. I don't think I'm touching this fight because I could see Don'Tale looking like a great wrestler because Sakai is not a good wrestler. And the problem with, you know, Sakai is that he's kind of a blown up light heavyweight. You know, he's not really, you know, 6'3" with a big belly. I always think like, Christ, you could make 205, you know. Mayes couldn't make 205 if he chopped off a leg, you know. I mean, that guy is absolutely gigantic. He's a house of a dude. So, you know, if Sakai doesn't catch him coming in, you know, you could see Don'Tale getting takedowns in all 3 rounds, and it's going to be a nightmare to get that dude off of you. So, yeah, this is one I'm staying away from. But, I mean, like, you look at the guys that Sakai is losing to, you know, Alistair Overeem grappled him. Sergey Spivak grappled him. And then the guys that are knocking him out, Rosenstruik and Tuivasa have a death touch. But, you know, Mayes doesn't fit anywhere into those type of opponents. You know, he doesn't have the striking power of the guys that knocked him out. He doesn't have the grappling chops of a guy like Overeem or Spivak. So, I mean, I think Sakai probably beats him. You know, he probably wins the minutes on the feet. Maybe he can get back up if he gets taken down. But it's a sloppy fight. Sakai's on a 4-fight losing streak. And, you know, Mayes could wind up being really good, though. Let's face it. I mean, like, this guy is still young. What is he at here? I've got Don'Tale Mayes at 31 years old, and Sakai's 31 as well, but he's like 8 months older. So, you know, at heavyweight, you can be in your prime until you're 40 because it's such a low skill, low athletic ceiling division that, you know, a guy like Mayes could make a run if he can figure out how to fight the right fight against the right opponent. And in this case, we're looking for Don'Tale to wind up getting takedowns and, you know, get on top and smash him in the face with his cup like he did to Parisian. And if he's unable to do that, you know, chances are Sakai pieces him up at range.
Man, did he ever talk about why he did that? Like, what was that?
I don't know, but it was very innovative, dude, because like that's not illegal. You know what I'm saying? He did it anyway, and even Herb Dean was like laughing because Herb was like, well, I can't take away a point for this because there's nowhere in the books does it say you can't smash a dude with your cup when you have him pinned down in a crucifix position. But,
It probably hurt a lot
clearly,
too.
even though it's not written down yet, it's not in the spirit of the rules, is it?
Just makes us look bad, but I feel like that probably hurt, honestly. Imagine like a guy that size, that probably hurt anyways. But
Probably did, dude.
I'll say if Sakai does go back to being an underdog, I'll probably get in. If he opened up at plus 125, like if I got that, I think I would have played him.
It's not bad. It's not a bad way to look at it. You know,
Not as a
I
favorite.
think that I'm just going to enjoy watching that fight, having no money on it.
If it's even enjoyable, I mean, the way things have been going, man. But for this one, we've got a fight that I'm super hyped for. Anyone who follows me on Twitter knows why. We've got Andre Muniz versus Brendan Allen. Muniz is 23-4-0. He's 33 years old, 6'1" with a 78-inch reach. And I've got a camp that's not this Tapology Tata fight team. It's Rio de Janeiro, Barra de Tijuca. Just the most recent camp I saw him on Tapology. Can't really make anything of it. Don't know that camp. Brendan Allen, 25-0. He's going to be, 6 years younger, 1 inch taller, 3-inch reach disadvantage. And for him, he's at Sanford MMA. So, Weezy, why don't you start us off for this one?
Yeah, great fight. This is really like a grappler versus a grappler. Muniz, a much higher level black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu than Brendan Allen is here. And Brendan Allen should be the better striker on the feet. But when you look at the numbers for Brendan Allen on the feet, they're not great at distance. He throws less volume than his opponents. He lands less volume than his opponents. And his distance striking defense is 47%. And then when you look at Andre Muniz, 44% takedown accuracy, 4.14 takedowns per 15 minutes, 2.63 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So when he gets down, you know, he's not just looking to lay on you. He wants to finish that fight. So you kind of have a choice. If Muniz is to take you down, you're either going to lose the round or you're going to lose the fight trying to get back up if he gets to your back. So, yeah, it's a really tough stylistic matchup. I kind of thought that I would get to the Brendan Allen side, but I can't do it, man. You know, I just don't know where Brendan wins this fight because the striking isn't spectacular. The wrestling isn't spectacular. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has always been very, very good, but the level of BJJ from Muniz just appears to be on paper and on the screen a notch above Brendan's. And then you saw Brendan get taken down over and over and over again by Jacob Malkoun, which leads me to believe if Jacob could do it, Andre might be able to get 1 or 2. And I just think all he needs is 2. If he gets 2, he wins 2 rounds, and then he just has to avoid being knocked out.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm with you. So I said, like, people already know because my dark horse, like who I actually think might end up being champ, we'll see after this fight, is Muniz. Because I think for the top of the division, he poses an incredible problem. Literally all of them. Izzy and Pereira for obvious reasons. For Rob Whittaker, because if Rob's wrestling, which he does really well, against a guy like this, it's really dangerous. And Rob's one of my favorite fighters. So for me to say that hurts. But his jiu-jitsu is just so freaking good. Like to take off Jacare's arm, like that's no easy task at all. And he did it. And every time he gets these subs, it's so impressive. Erick Anders, clean. Bartosz Fabinski, clean. All of it is just great. And I think that a lot of the hate coming towards him this week is people are salty. I think everyone and their mom had the Uriah Hall Muniz under 2.5. So I think people are very pissed. But to me, as a Muniz fan, it's good because it showed me he can go to a decision. He could grind out these guys for 3 rounds if he absolutely has to and can't submit them. And before people come in here saying I'm underrating Allen, I don't think I've ever bet against Allen until this time. Since the Tom Breeze fight, I've bet on him every single time. I bet him against Breeze. I bet him against Dawkins. I bet him against Strickland. I bet him against Roberson, Soriano, Curtis, Alvey, Malkoun, Jocko, all of them. I think very highly of Brendan Allen. And that should tell you how highly I think of Muniz. I think that this is just the wrong matchup for Allen. We've seen him get taken down and controlled by Malkoun. Many people felt that Malkoun won that fight. I will not comment because I had money on Ailin.
Me
But
too.
it's a fair argument for sure. And I did get hurt in that Chris Curtis fight, but that's irrelevant here. And then the Kyle Dawkins fight is very telling because who got the takedowns there? It was Dawkins. Not that Ailin shot at all. Literally, he didn't shoot. That's another thing, his fight IQ, right? How many times have all of us gotten pissed off for Ailin standing instead of grappling? And
14 takedown attempts in 10 fights.
And here you actually need him to do exactly what you've been pissed off about the entire time. Because if he goes to the grappling here, he's great, but I don't think he's on Muniz's level. I think it would be a mistake. His chance is on the feet. I think he's the better striker overall, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold it together. I think Muniz will find that sub. All that said, it's not like I'm coming in with a hammer on Muniz. I played him for 2 units at minus 200. That's all. Confident for him to win, hoping he makes that run, and I could end up looking like a genius, but that's it for this fight. I got Muniz. I don't have any books that offer like future champion props. I wonder what Muniz to be champ is. I would play that. It's probably like plus 2,000 or something.
Yeah. DraftKings probably has some futures, but if you don't have an account there.
Nah, I do, but they're so annoying with New York. They've been like slowly giving us other props that you guys have.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, like, it's like that. FanDuel, for some reason, doesn't offer me certain props on. They'll give it to me. They'll give me everything on the main event and sometimes the co-main event. And then I can't get certain props, like a round 3 decision, for instance. I can't get it, so it's weird.
Yeah, they get very weird with that stuff, but we can move on to this next one. We've got Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann, our main event of the evening. Krylov, 29-9-0. He's 30 years old, 6'3", with a 77.5-inch reach. And for his camp, let me check if I got anything. I did not. We're going with YK Promotion. For Spann, 21-7-0, 31 years old. He's 1 year older, 2 inches taller. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage, training out of Fortis MMA. And I'll start this one off. I bet Krylov. I just think he's the better fighter overall. I think he's the better striker technically, and I think he's the better wrestler. But I've got so many concerns. I'm like so anxious for this fight because Spann has a ton of power. Spann doesn't have terrible striking. Everything's a bit loopy, but he's hitting fast. He's hitting hard. And he's shown an ability, like when he's getting taken down, he's not getting held down much at all. I'm like, hope Weezy bring up the stats if you can with that. I don't have it like put down, but from what I was looking at, he wasn't getting held down much at all. And that's a big question mark for me. Can Krylov hold him down? Because if he can, I'm so confident that he'll win. If he gets uncomfortable on the feet, he gets wobbled on the feet. He got wobbled in the Uzdemir fight. Go to the takedowns. You're good. If Spann keeps getting up, I'm going to start getting real nervous. And if the fight extends, I mean, either side that you have, you got to get nervous because neither guy's gone very long in the UFC. For Krylov, 38 fights, only 4 have been to decision. He's lost 2, 1, 2, all of them in the UFC. So, yeah, I like Krylov. I love his wrestling. I like his striking. I think he's on the come up. But there's a lot of question marks. There's a big issue with the striking defense, in my opinion. Uzdemir hurt him for a reason. And if Spann lands a shot like that, I'm concerned he won't get back up. But I do have Krylov played at, minus 150 for 3 units to win 2. How about you, Weezy?
So Spann is very difficult to hold down. Spann has 14 takedown attempts, and Spann's opponents have 17. Spann has gotten 5 takedowns, and Spann's opponents have gotten 9. So Spann's opponents have almost doubled him up in takedowns, and they've attempted 3 more takedowns. But Ryan Spann's out-controlling his opponents 25% to 19%. So that's what I call good efficiency, in that you're getting less takedowns, you're attempting less takedowns, but you're still winning 57% of the control time positions you're in. Means that, you're reversing things, you're stopping takedowns, you're winding up on top for longer when you get takedowns than when your opponents take you down. Krylov's pretty efficient too, but not quite as efficient as Spann is. I mean, their numbers grappling-wise are very, very similar. Krylov wins about 58% of his control time positions. For Spann, it's 57%. They both got takedown defenses right around 50%. They're both getting their takedowns at 35%. Spann's averaging 1.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. Krylov's averaging 2.11. But here's the thing. Krylov's average fight time at the UFC level is 7.12 minutes. Spann, 5.61 minutes. And that is in a 26 fight sample size. So look, Mike, you could see Krylov winning this fight. You could see Spann winning this fight. The one thing you probably can't see is that this thing goes to round 3, that this thing even goes over 7.5 minutes, because both of these guys are very aggressive. They're both great finishers, and they're both dangerous wherever the fight goes.
Weezy, what do you think a fight doesn't start round 3 at -190? That's on DraftKings.
That's a good parlay piece, in my opinion. That might be something I throw into my greasy 4-legger this week. I'll throw like a Jordan Leavitt money line in there. I'll find another total I like. I'll take Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week inside the distance, and I'll do something like this one, the under 1.5, or the fight doesn't start round 3 here. There's some good ways to put together a 4-leg greasy parlay this week that can get you up to like plus 800.
Yeah, to me, the unders are kind of like, I used it as a hedge spot in the Emmett Yair Rodriguez fight, because I was like, all right, I like Yair a lot, got a good amount of money on him, but if he loses, it's probably ITD, but he can also win ITD, so why not play the fight doesn't go also? So I might target violence as well to hedge myself a bit and possibly win if Krylov wins too. But yeah, I definitely see the violence here. I mean, I think anybody could. The fight doesn't go to decision is -700 on Bet Online. It's plus 8,000 on Caesars.
Yeah, I know, dude. I'm trying to get that line. Dude, let's just say, look, my favorite bet of the week. This fight doesn't go to decision for the main event at plus 8,000 on Caesars. And I mean, I think I'm going to make a lot of people a lot of money with that call, everybody.
I really hope
that line while it's still there, plus 8,000 for a fight that's -700 everywhere else.
I really hope someone on Bet MMA tracks that line, because there's always someone. There's always someone, and I hope it happens here. That would be money. 10 units to win 800. But all right, guys, that is a card that's UFC Vegas 70, yes, and way better than last week. Thank you guys all for tuning in, for hanging in with us, guys. Thank you to Uncle Weezy for coming on. It's always a blast when you pull up. Going to see more of Weezy next week with us on the panel with me and Pat. More info will come out next week. And then in terms of me and content, tomorrow I'll be doing a PFL show with Big Steve. You guys know him. And I hope to put out a Bellator video. I'm not going to do any other regionals. I overextended last week, and it's affecting me, I think. So I'm going to slow down, still cover things like PFL and Bellator, but a little less on things like Aries FC. So, Weezy, why don't you tell everybody what's up? I know you got a show literally in 20 minutes. Yeah. And thanks again for coming on, man.
Let's hope my voice holds up until midnight tonight Central Time. But just the tip with Uncle Weezy, we're going to break down all 13 of these fights. I'm going to give you guys all my track bets. We're going to finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio, 6 o'clock Central Time, we got the DFS show. And then tomorrow night on Uncle Weezy's channel, I'll do Ask Weezy. I'll go live at 10 o'clock. I'll open up my database, my prop template, everything that I got. And you can ask me some questions about these fighters, these fights, anything you need to know. So appreciate you having me on. I got to bounce to get to my next show in 19 minutes. And I appreciate all you guys for joining us. And you for having me on, man.
Of course, man. Thanks for coming on so close to your show. But let's get you out of here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and peace out.